Imagine getting to walk through the same palace gardens that Thomas Jefferson did almost 200 years ago. Colonial Williamsburg is a live-action history museum that shows what colonial life was like during the 18th century. As an American, I think it is important to keep our history alive, and I think it is important for future generations to see how immigrants came together to form this great nation. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the history of colonial life, how colonial life has impacted the people of the United States today, and how it has had a global impact. Williamsburg's history. Williamsburg was established in 1699. It's located between the James and York River. This is because the governor petitioned to move it 5 miles inland. At the time it was Jamestown. They petitioned to move it 5 miles inland so that they could have 2 sources of water, whereas before it was only the James River. Williamsburg grew quickly and became the center of politics, economics, social life, and religion. Founding fathers began their new lives here and met through the House of Burgesses, where ideas came into place that would change politics forever. I got this information from williamsburgva.org. It was also known as the Center of Learning in the New World because of the establishment of the College of William and Mary. Many founding fathers such as Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe and John Tyler went to this college. Colonial Williamsburg has had a role on people in the United States by establishing the first mental illness hospital in the New World. Before this was not really a thing. They just kind of dealt with people in the colony that were kind of causing havoc. Typically they would be put to death if they did something that was terrible. And so they were kind of like, these people have an illness, they were born this way, and they need to be treated. This began the idea that mental illness needed to be researched because they tried to find a cure there. They didn't find one. It served as a boarding house and a mental institute up until the fire that happened in 1876. I got this from researchhistory.org and ushistory.net. Next is the House of Burgesses. It was formed in 1643, and it was the first legislative body in America. To be in the House of Burgesses, you had to be white, you had to be very rich and have a lot of land to have a say. And what's important about the House of Burgesses is it was basically, they were the first colony that formed a legislative, and this made it to where other colonies that would later be formed also had the idea to form a legislative so that they didn't have any problems and fail like the first colonies of America. This also came from ushistory.net. The advances made in Williamsburg didn't just impact America, they impacted the world. Williamsburg proved that democracy was successful. Other countries developed democracies after the American Revolution, China and France, because before they hadn't practiced democracies. We had a really long time to practice democracies. We had 157 years to be exact. And people weren't experienced with it, they didn't know about it before, and that's why they ultimately were never able to overthrow their monarchies like we were. The tradition established in the House of Burgesses basically helped the globe because it helped China and France. Williamsburg was home to Thomas Jefferson. We all know him, great founding father. He came there in 1760, where he lived in Market Square Tavern. At this time, he was an immigrant, he was new, and he was probably scared of this world. He was studying law at William and Mary, and after his studying of law, he was able to move up the ranks. He was part of the House of Burgesses, and he later became the last governor in Williamsburg and was the last person to live in the governor's palace. During his time in Williamsburg, he befriended other founding fathers such as George Washington and James Monroe. This is where they began establishing They began establishing the ideas of how they wanted this new nation to be and how they wanted to overthrow Britain. Without the idea these men created, we would not be the nation we are today. They were all people of the Whig Party. Williamsburg served as a home to many influential people in history, and the advances made in Williamsburg are a reminder to people today to take risks because you may go down in history. My information on Thomas Jefferson was found off of Monticello.org and History.org. So I would just like to end with, if Colonial Williamsburg is something you just have to experience for yourself. You want to walk the streets that our founding fathers walked on, and you want to see where history went down. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
So who's your favorite founding father and why?
My favorite founding father would have to be Alexander Hamilton. I think as Treasury of State, he did some great work. Yes, you in the back?
So, last year we went to Williamsburg on a family vacation. What was your favorite part of that trip?
I really liked seeing the printing press room. They used individual letters and lined them up to make the words, and then they used the roller and they put it on the paper, and it was just a very tedious process. And it made me think about how if I were to own a book from that time, it would be really priceless because of how long it took to make those books. Any other questions?
So was the House of Burgesses located in Williamsburg, or was it somewhere else?
The House of Burgesses was started in Jamestown, and then whenever the colony moved, it moved with the colony.